Welcome to That's So Intimate,
a podcast where we explore living well through deep, curious conversations.
I'm Sarah, guide at Rad Intimacy, inviting you to remember your sacred self.
I'm Brian, guide at Sadhana Yoga School, where we share wisdom for life.
Let's get intimate. Hi, friends. As the holiday season is upon us, I thought it might be good to unpack the word family this week. So, family's origin comes from the Latin word familia, which means household. So, the people that share a home or a life with you, but there's so much more to it now. The definition, I have sort of like three different takes on it, but the first being, as we alluded to with the households, sort of that singular family unit, the parents and children living under one roof is like definition number one. Definition number two is more expanded. So all of the descendants of a common ancestor. So this would be like your broader family. And then the third definition is a group of related things. So like genus, family, I think of when you talk about species and whatnot. So yeah, a group of things. What comes to mind for you, Brian, when you think of the word family?
I guess I think about my immediate family when I was growing up, so my parents and my siblings, and then I think about my, new family with my son. And so those are kind of two separate immediate families that I'm in. One I'm a parent and then one I'm a child. And then I think about my extended family, so aunts, uncles, cousins. And then I think about this idea of chosen family. So these are non-blood related people who I treat similar to family in that I care about them, spend time with them, and would support them in the time of need. And I try to share joyous times with them.
It's interesting because I think the first few examples you gave are what maybe traditionally was thought of as family, right? Your family of origin, your current family, your extended family. And that's that like blood is thicker than water type mentality. And maybe that was in more survivalist times. That was like how you protected your tribe, your kind of biologically related people. And now I feel like it has expanded beyond that. Like you're talking about chosen family. And it's suggested here that like over time, the word family has grown into something much wider, which seems true. Like the circle of people with which you choose to share yourself, share your life, who support you, who maybe help you remember who you are.
Yeah, definitely. I think that was, like if we think about who our family is, we can define it by blood relation. But I mean, there are stories of people who thought they were related by blood to somebody and then they weren't. Does that really change mean they're not their family anymore? No, it doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
Or if people lose their parents and then they are adopted, then they have a family. Even though it's not technically blood, it's very much their family. And then if, especially traveling, we meet a lot of people who are not like relating so much with their family of origin, and they have created a chosen family that they spend holidays with, spend time with, support each other. I think it's gone beyond just living together. Like maybe the original definition was who you're living with was your family. I think it's now like more like in your community, who your closest people you might call your family.
Like your inner circle, kind of.
Yeah, your
right.
inner circle.
I remember, I describe myself as an intimacy coach, among other things. And there's this really great visual, I can link it in the show notes, called the zones of intimacy. And if you can think of concentric circles, the smallest circle in the center is you as an individual. And then the next tightest one is family and or the people that you either live with or communicate with on a regular basis and really rely on, and it's meant to just be a few people. Like, maybe that's where, if you're a parent, your children would go, or if you had a partner, where your partner would go, right? Like, so it could be that rung, it could be the next rung, but it's like a you're more intimate, meaning you're just closer, you divulge more of yourself to the people, like, you're just more deeply connected. Although some people who we consider family, like, we were talking the other day about, you might have cousins, aunts, or uncles or something like that who we maybe see once a year, if that, or communicate over text, social media, phone call, like, very infrequently, right? And that doesn't make them not family. It's just interesting to contrast that to, say, like, a friend or neighbor who you more regularly depend on, like, who do you consider family, right? It's interesting to potentially expand our definitions in that way.
Yeah, if I think about, like, comparing one of my uncles to my neighbor, like, I interact more with my neighbor. Like, I might see him and talk to him once a week or at least every other week, and then if I need a favor or if he needs a little favor, like unloading something or clearing the driveway, we kind of rely on each other similar to maybe what family would. So is he like more family than my uncle that I see every couple years at a family reunion or something?
But it's not just proximity and frequency, right? It's how much, what was it like, that you kind of show yourself to them, or they remind you who you really are, or in the worst case scenario, they'd be there for you, right? I think,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, my experience in my life is the I guess my sense is like your immediate family, like who you're growing up with, whether it's your biological or adopted parents and siblings, whether they're biological or step or whatever, like that family has a huge impact on your life, whether or not they're involved or not, right? If they're very involved, it can be positive. If they're not involved, it can be have a negative impact on your life if a family member is not involved.
Mm.
Immediate family, aunts and uncles, cousins. My sense is that if they're involved, it can have a great positive impact on your life. You can kind of like overlap with them quite a bit, know them, be in relationship with them. If they're not that involved and you don't see them that often, it doesn't have necessarily a negative impact on your life the same way an immediate family member not being involved with your life has a
Mhm.
I think it has a negative impact on your life.
It's bringing up, like, attachment for me, right? Like, so whether that's your parents or some kind of a guardian caretaker, every child, infant and child, needs someone that they know will be there, right?
Mhm.
And if you don't, you tend to have quite a bit of attachment wounds there. Or if they're there, but they're quite unpredictable or they feel unsafe. And so, yeah, we as humans, little humans, need someone to attach to, because we can't, like, infants can't survive on their own. They need someone, right? It makes me think of old school when, kids would be given up on, like, the doorstep of a church or something. And, maybe they'd go to an orphanage if those were in existence then, or maybe someone would just decide, I wasn't able to have a baby, I wanted to have a baby, or I'm willing to raise this child, and then it becomes your family, right? Like, so there is this, like, innocence and dependence on care that can be, like, in some ways the origin of family, because family can be the people who raise you, but it doesn't always have to be, but you do need that, right? Like,
Mhm.
and so I kind of think it's like what your experience was like from your family of origin, and if it wasn't good, is it repairable? If it wasn't good and not repairable, then do you start more aligning with chosen family? Like, I mean, you can have it all too, right? Like, you can have both your family of origin, your extended family, your own family, your chosen family. If you're lucky, it's great, have all of it. But like, some people have less to choose from, let's say, on whether they're adopted or they had an unsafe, you know, they might just have less choice for like, what is my family, extended family, and can I rely on them? Are they safe? Is that relationship good for me?
Makes me think about my values around family, and I guess I might be pretty traditional in the sense that I think that your family of origin has a big impact on your life, and that it's kind of like an extra challenge in life if you don't have, I guess, a strong connection with your family of origin. Creates
Yeah.
an extra challenge in life. I don't know if that's just my perspective
Mhm.
or
I definitely
if it's
think
kind of
it's
more if
foundational.
it's more universally true or not, but it's kind of a belief that I carry.
Well, it's certainly foundational, right? It's you learn a lot of relational things as well as other things from that, emotional, psychological, nervous system related, the way the world works. Like you pick up a lot, right? Kids are like sponges, right? So
Mhm.
it really does matter. So it's interesting to think like, what do we get out of family? At least on the positive side, it's like it could be that you get, if you're lucky, maybe of safety, belonging, encouragement, maybe like a sense of identity within this family unit. Ideally, joyful memories to like reminisce on, shared stories. Like there can be this like beautiful bit. And then if that stands alone and that's a majority of your experience, I'd say consider yourself lucky. Most people have a blend, right, where they have that, but then they have it mixed in with some hard times. And then there's another set of people where they get very little of that safety, belonging, good memories, and it's almost all dark and challenging and painful. So we all come into this world with like this like different mix, probably based on just who our parents are and what their skills are, and if we get to grow up with those parents or not, and like what the circumstances and the country we grow up in and the socioeconomic class and like all kinds of things impact those early years. Because we just talked about belonging, and I touched on the kind of like third definition of family at the beginning, which is like being a part of a family of things, like things. I would like to read this poem by Mary Oliver that I'm just quite a big fan of hers in general, and how she has like a reverence for nature and weaves that into her poetry. But I love how she references belonging in this poem and ultimately family. Um, so this poem's called Wild Geese by Mary Oliver. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese, high in the clean blue air, are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you, like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over, announcing your place in the family of things. What I love about this poem is what I hear her saying at the beginning is suffering is not required to belong. Kind of like be who you are, love what you love. And also the world, the earth, is your place of belonging. Like you belong here amongst the family of things. And what a cool thing to consider, possibly, that your family is this whole earth, that you are a part of this ecosystem, that you belong here, that, you know, I think that can be helpful to some people who struggle with belonging or with feeling like they have someone to call family.
I love that idea. It's exciting to grow a that's so intimate family over
Mm.
the coming months and years to see how we can grow with each other, support each other. I guess that like that feel that we belong.
Mm. And in that way, it makes me feel like possibly family could be synonymous with community or in the yogic world, Sangha, right? Like
Mhm.
that maybe could it all be one and the same or at least equivalent in our minds?
Yeah, it seems to serve the same purpose in a lot of ways, in terms of feeling of belonging, in terms of kind of mutual support, mutual growing together, some sharing of not necessarily resources, but sharing of time, energy, space.
Hmm.
So I might think like maybe some people have a really strong family. That's a lot of their community, right? That's where they get their community fix is through family, in relationship with other people.
Yeah.
People that don't have as strong a family look to the more broader community for that community feel.
It's interesting to think about potentially what is our role or what are our responsibilities within the contexts of family or, a more expansive community. Like, what is it that we bring? What role do we serve? Often it's multitudes, right? Depending on which family group or community group that we're in. But I guess what is ours to do? What is our responsibility within it? Interesting to think about that. What do you believe are some of the, I don't know, I wouldn't call it a requirement, but some of the ideals of,
I guess it varies depending on age and relationships, right? So with like a kid's role, let's say a young kid's role, I guess their role is to, I don't know, I guess explore and figure out how to fit in with their family, right? And to explore themselves as part of the family, but as individuals and just kind of like play that edge, I guess.
do you think they have a responsibility of some kind of participation within it?
Well, I think that exploration requires participation.
Right. As like even just like a test, right? Like explore where do I fit in if I am choose to say yes to participating in some sort of event or thing, right?
Yeah, because if they're not participating, then they're not giving it a chance. They're not, it's kind of like dissolving,
Mm,
instead of growing. And not to say that, I guess it's a balance of participating, but then also individuating.
mm,
And if either one goes too much, right? If let's say they're participating just 100% in family things and then they don't know what they like, they just go along with every meal and never share their preferences. They go along with every activity. They never think about what they like or don't like. They just kind of like go along, and it could be maybe too much family enmeshed. But on the other hand, if they're just always doing their own thing and not participating in family things, then there's like a not even it's like pretending the family doesn't even exist.
mm,
So then they're not getting everything that's kind of taught in a family or we learn being in relationship with others.
mhm.
So kids, I think it's to explore and be themselves and participate and also to push back,
Yeah.
you know?
I think the responsibilities of the adults within the family, whether it's that you're a parent, grandparent, aunt, uncle, adult cousin, blah, 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 are higher though, right? Like, so
Yeah.
like this, obviously, you know, like, just participation seems like a low bar, but it is something that we could maybe expect out of children. But the rest of it, from how adults interact with the children within the family, let's say, it's lots of, like, care, like, you're caring, like, that's one thing, like, an infant child would need. They would need
Mhm.
care. And beyond that, I feel like a lot of it is, like, I'm saying the direction of adult to child. It's kind of a little bit of allowing and having some guardrails for, like, safety, and maybe, you teach through modeling and various things, but my view is that it's a lot less expectations than, like, say, I grew up with, which, sometimes parents or grandparents or older family members have an expectation that the child, like, behaves in a certain way or follows a certain path, or maybe even, like, goes to the same college you went to, or, like, whatever that is, right? Like, that's really more about the adult, right? That they could maybe let go of. Anyway, I don't know if you wanna.
Yeah, and I think that can get kinda mixed up in family. We call it family, you're part of the family, you gotta go to this school, but yeah, it's really more like an individual. The adult wants their kid to live a similar life to what they lived, or do things that they wish they had been able to do.
Exactly, like, live
Like,
vicariously,
yeah,
yeah.
living vicariously through the kid, so, like,
That doesn't feel good for the kid for sure.
yeah, so I guess a relationship or the role of a parent is to be open and be very curious about the kid, right?
Mhm.
And to get to know them as deeply as possible,
Yeah.
and to care for them, provide for them, to teach them, to share with them, to grow with them.
I love Khalil Gibran in his book, The Prophet, talks about children, mm, pretty much speaking to parents or caregivers or those who are raising children. And I love what he says. I'll quote a few things here. Your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life's longing for itself. They come through you, but not from you. You may give them your love, but not your thoughts, for they have their own thoughts.
Yeah,
I think that's, in a way, a pretty progressive way to think about it, though, and don't
from
think.
way back when, yeah.
Yeah, right, because this was written over 100 years ago, The Prophet, I believe.
Yeah, it's huge. I think even today, people struggle to treat kids as people
Right.
with preferences, desires, deserving of choices.
And then from the child perspective, like, family or caregivers matter so much in the, like, maybe 10 and under years, and it certainly matters after that, but in a different kind of way, because you start really, like, aligning more to your peers, and you might begin to then take your family, your caregivers more for granted. And I think that comes in waves for adults too, right? Like, you just, like, kind of, like, assume your uncle's gonna be there to help you with this project, because whenever I have asked, he's always said yes and come over to help, or I take my mom for granted because 'cause I'm used to, like, e I don't know, whatever, right? Like, so I think we go through phases where there's maybe less appreciation and more just assuming they'll always be around, or assuming they'll always give you what you need, or you're in a phase where you're just really focused on other parts of your life, so you just give less attention to it.
So how do you think that shifts family? Let's say as kids enter teen years and
Mm. I think it more comes from, again, the adult or parental perspective, to allow for the ebb and flow of growth, of your child's growing up. Just because they're kind of spending quite a lot of time, less time with you, say in the teen years or in the college years, doesn't mean they won't come back to you and want to spend more time and maybe have a different view of family, right? And so it's like kind of being able to, like, flow and let them know you're still there when they're ready to kind of come back and engage, and still maybe ask them to contribute in some ways or invite them to family things, but, like, be okay if it doesn't go the way you want it to go. So it's kind of like holding things a little bit more loosely. That's how I see it. but it's hard. Let's like be real. If you like, raise this little being from birth and all of a sudden they like, are angsty teens and like scoff at you, eye roll, don't want to spend time with you, like think you're lame, like, think everyone's smarter than you, like it can be hurtful, right? Or they go off into the world and they move across the country or choose like, it's can be it's hard to let go. It's hard to allow for that growth sometimes. I guess you hope that if you provide the kind of environment, the kind of love and care and, that like and this is for anybody, not just for parents, right? Anybody in the family, if that child or young adult feels safe and respected and loved and that you'll be there for them, they'll come back if they need you, right? Like it will happen. I have a question about so now more and more in at least our US culture, but I think in Europe too, maybe other places in the world, I'm not sure, it's becoming maybe less and less common to get married as a standard thing. You might just be in partnership, maybe long-term partnership, and you might not like say legally get married. So is your long-term assuming long-term, you guess you never always know, but say like long-term romantic partner, your life partner, are they family?
Well, I think for that couple, it may not make a difference with their relationship,
Mm,
but I think that it might make a difference with the extended family's perception of the other
absolutely.
partner,
Yeah.
where if people are married, "Oh, welcome to the family."
It gives some like
If
legitimacy in a way.
if
Yeah.
they're not married and they're in partnership, could be just as committed
Or more.
or more, but there may be some members of either family who don't perceive it as as strong of a bond as if they were married. So then that interaction may be different. So it could shift the family dynamic.
And I think that can be really hurtful, painful, and challenging. Like, I wonder how we begin to evolve into accepting that as whoever we tell our people that this person matters to me. This person is significant. I consider them family. Maybe we just should say that outright. I consider them family. It would be helpful if you could consider them family, regardless if we have like a legal marriage contract or not, right? Like, because that's been a thing in speaking for family members I know that have been together for a long time and aren't married. And, there's been some hurt about how they're considered, right? Yeah. Here's another interesting thing, I think, from Khalil Gibran on marriage, since we're kind of talking about marriage versus partnership or something like that. But I think it also pertains to the idea of relating to family and community. So he says, let there be spaces in your togetherness, and let the winds of the heavens dance between you. Stand together, yet not too near. For the pillars of the temple stand apart, and the oak tree and the cypress grow not in each other's shadow. So, what that kind of says to me is like almost avoid enmeshment, whether that be with the person you're married to or often there's parent child enmeshment, right? You start becoming one person and right I think what he's saying and what I would agree with is it's super healthy to be very connected to the people in your family or to your partner or whatever, but allow for the individuation.
Yes, I guess that's kind of like, I mean, I think family can be very valuable asset in your life, right? To have family. But then that's speaking to maybe some of the downside for things to be aware of is, yeah, being enmeshed or being too tied or not giving family members or not feeling like you have space in your family to be yourself, be your own person, make your own decisions. That can be a limiting factor on your life. So ideally, we want the best of both worlds, right? We want to be able to be our own selves and feel we have that freedom and we have support of others
Mhm.
who are wanting the best for us.
Yeah. I mean, that would be the best case, right? And it makes me think of what the opposite of that could look like. So, I'm thinking of an example of, say, a child comes out as, you know, gay, lesbian, bisexual, maybe they're trans, maybe non-binary, whatever it is, and then the parent rejects them, right? Says, "I never want to speak to you again, never come here again. I don't love you. You're not part of the family. Like, you're out."
Yeah, so then that's like an impossible decision for the child, right? Do I not basically not be who I am so I can fit in with the family and have that? Or do I be who I am and then lose my family and lose the benefit of that?
It's a horrible spot to be put in. And I want to say it's the work, in my opinion, of the family member shunning someone for being who they are that has the work that they need to do, right? Like, it's not it's not shame on the person trying to be themselves, it's shame on the person not allowing for the person to be who they are. But it happens. It happens probably every day all the time, right? So
Yeah.
then how does that person who's been kicked out, or they get kicked out of their church family, their community, right, because of those choices, and how do they find that safety again, that sense of community and, your tribe, someone you can count on? Because the estrangement, the isolation, the disconnection, abandonment, that's a lot to overcome. And I think probably that's why the queer community is so tight, so close to each other and so supportive, is because that's happened, certainly over the last 100 years or more, since people have been trying to live a little more openly, that they've there's been estrangement or abandonment. Yeah.
Yeah, and our example was a big example and maybe total estrangement. But I think that happens regularly where somebody in a family will make a decision and then their family pulls back a little bit,
Mhm.
or maybe it's more of a pushback, right?
Mhm.
So then there's a choice of that person. Ooh, do I kind of like go along with what my family wants, or do I do what I want? Right? On little decisions, even if it's like what job to get in the summer, or
But it could
which
be
which
medium
which
too.
friend to have,
Yeah.
or where to go to school, or what class to take, or what thing to buy. Like, it can happen on many little levels.
Mhm.
We're always facing that dance of doing things that keep us a part of that family or things that pull us a little bit away. But, as we go through and do those things that pull us away, it's actually an opportunity for the family to evolve and grow. And you were suggesting that it's kind of the responsibility of the family aspect that's pushing somebody away to grow in that moment and say, okay, it doesn't feel good. Like, what we've been doing doesn't allow for this decision to happen, but we've got to grow and evolve to allow that person to be themselves. And
Mm.
then that, in a way, it grows the whole family, and the whole family will get stronger if that happens. Because then we can have more people being themselves in that family unit, and they're more individual and they're more connected. Whereas if the family doesn't evolve and it's like, okay, we only are family if we all play these certain roles, then the family may be strong, but the individuals, it's not supporting the individuals as much because the individuals don't have as much space. It's like a
Mhm.
smaller
You can't
circle.
expand into who
Yeah.
you really are
Yeah.
if say your parents or grandparents are like, this is the narrow role that you play and this is what I
Mhm.
expect, and if you go outside those lines, then you risk belonging to this family,
Mhm.
right? Like, and I think a lot of people, like, again, as the holidays come near, they face that internal tension or stress or have or anticipatory anxiety around, oh, what's this person going to say, or how are they going to behave? Are they going to accept me, accept my partner, have something sort of nasty to say? Are they going to shun me? Or, they're kind of like playing this dance of how to navigate when we get together. Because in every family, there's some tension, there's some turmoil or difficulty. And, sometimes it's tough to navigate when you get together in a group. And what's your role to do within it, right? Like maybe you're not individually involved with whatever the current tension is. Like, do you speak up? Do you stand up for this family member? You know, or do you try to keep the peace? It's really hard to know sometimes what to do in these situations, and it can create a lot of discomfort.
Yeah, and I guess my experience in life is that's where we get some of the biggest learnings from, right? Like, if I think about the things I know and kind of the skills I have now versus 10 years ago, I've learned a lot through my interactions with my family, right? And some of those were, I would consider like mistakes on my part,
Hmm.
where had I know what I know now, I would have done things differently. But it's stronger, things are stronger and more expansive now,
Mhm.
having gone through that.
I think it's really interesting to go back to that tool of the zones of intimacy and imagine these concentric circles. And maybe, I can link it again, do your own intimacy circles. Like you can get a blank one that I can link in the show notes where you put yourself in the middle and you think about all the people in your life. And maybe you don't yet have a partner and you don't yet have kids, or, you could add it in as a future thing or a current day thing. But putting in all the family and friends and supports and communities within those circles to kind of think about who is your tribe, who can you count on. And I guess it's just about being intentional about where you want to spend your time, where you want to put your attention, who maybe you want to see on an annual basis or talk to on a regular basis, who you really want to have a thread through your life. Yeah, it makes me think of two things that we've talked about before. So, one is like the deathbed analogy. Who do you want to be around you when your time is coming to an end? That's a pretty good clue that that's your family, that those are the people who are the most important to you. And, maybe that's different. What you would answer today is different than it would look 10 years ago, might be different than it looks in 10 years, but that's always a good sign. And then, you can comment on all of this, but also I'd be curious if you wanted to tell the listeners about your little strawberry emoji in your phone contacts and things too.
Oh, yeah. I recognized a few years ago that I don't do a great job of keeping in touch with friends. And that was, I guess, limiting the amount of deeper friendships that I had or that I recognized. So I started when I put somebody in my contact or when they're in there, like in my contacts on my phone, I put their name and then I put the emoji strawberry if it's somebody that I want to be like develop a deeper friendship with. And it doesn't mean like I have any expectation of how deep it's going to get or anything. It's just like, yeah, this is a person that I enjoy spending time with. I like to get to know. I want to be like, yeah, it'd be great if I like, they have a positive impact on my life. So I want them in it more.
Mhm.
Right. So it's like, okay, they're all strawberries. Right. And then, like in my phone, if I'm looking through my messages, I can just like scroll down a bit on my messages. And if there are some strawberries that I haven't been in touch with a long time, I could just message them.
Mhm.
So it's kind of like, yeah, intentionally identifying people who I would like in my life more. I mean, just as I think about it now, I definitely need to do a better job of keeping in touch with them, but it does help.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And effectively, that is saying, like, maybe this person is in the farther out rung of the intimacy circle, and maybe they're more of an acquaintance, or the new friends could be in that zone, and you want them to kind of move inward if it feels aligned, right? Like, you
Mhm.
want them to be closer to you. And I think you can do that with family too, right? Like a second cousin or an aunt that lives across the country. You can still say, "Hey, I just have such a great time when I see them. I want to get to know them more." Put a little strawberry emoji, or just, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah, and family are a lot like friends in that way, in that the more we interact with them, the more they're a part of our lives, right? So
mhm.
it's like I used to think things just kind of were the way they were, and your friends were your friends. I thought there was some magical thing that made somebody a friend. I mean, there is kind of a magical thing that makes somebody your family, but the family that impacts us the most are the ones that we interact with the most. So we have choice over that. We have choice over if we spend time with family, right? If I make an effort to see an uncle, or if I make an effort to see one of my cousins, that's like building that relationship of family. And the more I interact with them, the stronger that family bond becomes.
Yeah. And going back to the zones of intimacy, I think you can invite someone into a deeper zone and into a closer zone, or further out.
Hmm.
So that could look like, I mean, a common one would be like, maybe you were married to someone and then you're divorced. And most often that means they move out at least a rung, from in your zones of intimacy. But I imagine that that could also happen with a friend or family member. You could just grow apart, but it could be something more like an event, like a really like unrepaired rupture, or something significant that happens that it just really puts a wedge that, you certainly can repair, but maybe for whatever reason it doesn't, and then they kind of move out.
Makes me think about when we do have ruptures in friend relationships or family relationships. I guess we're thinking about family today is, and then how long it takes to repair, or if it's ever repaired, why that happens or why it doesn't, right? And if it's a small rupture and requires some effort, but we have the skill and we have the time and effort, it usually gets repaired, right? But if it's too big, so big, and we're like, maybe we don't have the skills to repair it, maybe we don't have the energy and time to repair it,
Mm,
and then sometimes we will put that repair off and say, like, I'm not dealing with this now. I'm just gonna do my own thing, you know?
mhm,
So I guess in a way, that's like the individual leaving the family because the family did something that they don't agree with, right? So earlier we talked about the individual doing something that the family doesn't agree with, and that might push them away. But often it could be viewed as, from the other perspective, the
mhm,
individual does, or the family does something that the individual doesn't want to tolerate,
mhm.
and then they kind of pull away.
Yeah.
And if the individual is in it, often time will shift things, right? Because I think often the individual might get more resources, like in terms of more energy, more time, more skills on how to repair, and then they kind of come back and repair
Mhm,
or start the repair process. But if they don't, like, that doesn't happen right away because it's hard. It's really hard to repair, right?
mhm,
It's hard to hear things that are not fun to hear from somebody, right?
mhm.
About an experience they had and how they don't like something that we did, or how they think we're whatever it is.
Mm.
It's really hard to go through that, but that's part of the repair process of having that communication with the other family members and working through it.
It's too bad we're not all taught these skills as something valuable that you pass down within family or in our society, because I think friendships, family units, and community would all be stronger if we were more skilled and had experience at doing this, because there will be hurt, right? It will happen. Someone will, you know, do something, say something that's hurtful, and how we navigate that says a lot. I think this is an interesting segue to also talk about boundaries, right? Because maybe it's not a real rupture, but something that you need to put some guardrails in place to kind of protect you, protect your kids, your peace of mind, whatever that looks like, even if it's just temporary until you can repair or whatever. So I love the definition of boundaries that Prentice Hemphill has, which is, it is the distance at which I can love you and me simultaneously. I find it to be the most beautiful definition of it, because it's less like I'm trying to harm you by putting up a wall. It's more like I'm trying to love you. I just need some space, you know? So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think there's more to the story to boundaries, right? Because boundaries is like, yeah, so like this is how I can love you and love me in this moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Based on the time I have, the energy I have, the skills I have, this is all I can do,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
But in a year, in 10 years, maybe I have more capacity, maybe I have more time, maybe I have more energy, maybe I have more skills to
Mm-hmm.
interact at a totally different level. So then the boundary shifts, right?
Or sometimes it takes a major event. Like maybe you're talking about a sibling, let's say, and your parent gets really sick, or or they do, or you do. Like it can really shift. These like major life events can really shift, and then maybe it's then that you're willing to reconsider the boundaries or try to connect or repair, and like that also happens a lot in families.
Yeah, I see that as a shift of priorities, right? So it's like, might put up a boundary and we might say to ourselves, like, I don't have the time and energy to deal with this. So I'm doing a boundary. Like these are the interactions that I have space for.
Hmm.
But then let's say a major life event happens, and then it's a reprioritization. It's like, okay, now I'm going to put this is my priority. So I'm going to put way more time and energy into it. And then all of a sudden that boundary doesn't need to be there because you can deal with it. You have the time and energy to deal with it.
Totally.
I think boundaries are great, but my sense is maybe people use them. I see people using them a little bit too much. And
Hmm. Hmm.
it's more of I see it some more like a band aid, or a coping mechanism. And
Mm. Yeah.
it's like, it might be totally necessary and a great decision, but it's not necessarily a long term fix, right?
Yeah, for sure.
It's like, okay, we're gonna put up this boundary. This is what I need. And then it's like not. It's like maybe you don't want to have that relationship and you want to shift it and move that person outside
Maybe
of
it's your
their
own
ring.
growth you need to do too,
Yeah.
right? So maybe it's like I'm trying to give myself 6 months to do therapy, or to process through this thing in my past, or to whatever. Like it can be requested for your own growth,
Hmm.
right? Like I want to be this kind of parent, sibling, whatever, and I just need time to get there.
Hmm.
I just want to talk about both gratitude for family and resentment or anger related to family, right? And sometimes you can have both of those things toward the same person, and that can be really confusing. It's like, I love you, I'm grateful for you, and also you've hurt me in these ways. And I think for a majority of people that I know, their familial relationships are a bit overlapping in those ways. And it can be confusing to figure that out, to navigate that, right? It's like a little like I'm walking on eggshells. Like I want to trust you. I want to be like all in and care about you. And I have respect for you. And I want to forgive you. But like, can I after whatever? Like, I don't know. It's like this dance. It can be kind of challenging.
Yeah, it makes total sense that we would want, like, just a positive relationship or just a positive feeling around family members.
Yeah.
But the reality is that probably everyone in our life has done something that we don't like, right? So there's, like, some of that,
It's like a mix.
yeah, mix of positive things and negative things in that relationship, and
I just think it's more painful when it's like, say, your parent or somebody you thought would be more on like the loving, accepting side, and then you get pain or
it
hurt or disappointment, right? Like, so yeah.
definitely is, but it's also kind of to be expected,
Sure, nobody's perfect, right?
and it's not even about perfection, it's about individual differences, right? It's just the nature of a relationship. So it's almost like we have to choose our relationships. Is it a net positive or is it a net negative
Mm.
in our
And
life?
accept that people are imperfect. I do wanna just come back to that because I think sometimes we can hold someone to an ideal, like, "You should have been this mom or dad to me," and that might be true, like, maybe they did bad things or, really hurtful things. Maybe they, didn't show up the way they could have. And yeah, agree with what you're saying. You have to kind of, like, weigh it all, and there's always hope for people to grow and change too, right? Like,
Mhm.
but it's also real that, like, say we'll stick with the parent example, they hurt you when you were 8 and now you're an adult. It's hard to process through that pain and disappointment. And yet maybe they've grown or maybe they would apologize for that if they knew you were holding on to that. I don't know. I guess I just want to say that for most people, it's this kind of messy, kind of confusing mix of emotions when they think about a family member sometimes, or family in general as like a whole unit type of thing.
Mhm.
It's like, oh, there were these highs, there were these good memories, there were these lows, there were these awful things. And yeah,
So then it's like, well, what's the ratio of
yeah.
positive to negative that we need to have someone in our life, right?
And it's also a bit the perception. I think it's natural that if something was, say, scary for us as a kid, that it like sticks in our nervous system. We had some kind of a traumatic thing, and maybe it was associated with some family member. I don't know. But can you do the work and process through all of that? And then I think for me, I'm thinking about how that sticks with you in such like a more substantial way. And maybe it was a singular event in the course of your whole childhood. And yet it's hard to be kind of neutral on assessing the relationship because what really you remember when you think of Uncle so and so is that one time that he scared you and yelled at you or whatever, instead of like on the whole, maybe he was lovely and did lots of great things for you. And I don't know, right? Like, so I guess what I'm saying is you're talking about it. Is it net positive, negative? I think sometimes it's less to do with like looking at it on a spreadsheet and saying pros and cons. And it's more kind of like, what things can you let go of and forgive that were painful and not forget them necessarily, but like try to also see the positive. I guess that's hard to do, is what I'm trying to say
Mhm.
sometimes, right?
Yeah.
And I think sometimes chosen family and like people that you've known for a really long time and had in your life that really like know you, and maybe you more greatly overlap on values and your approach to life than you do with, like, say, your family of origin or your blood relatives or whatever. It can be easier to navigate when there's more similarity with whether it's, you know, whatever kind of family it is. So one thing we didn't touch on is the category of family that's not necessarily like the chosen family, like friends, and not necessarily blood related. There are these like other categories. So, there's adoption, there's married in family, so half siblings, step siblings, that whole thing, right? And we're lucky enough to be joined today by some of that family to comment on family. These will be our first guests on the podcast ever. I didn't mean to stop if you had any. Thanks for tuning in to That's So Intimate. If this episode sparked something for you, hit subscribe and share it with someone you care about. We're growing this beautiful community, one conversation at a time.
Got a word or topic you want us to explore? Send us an email or find us on Instagram. We love hearing from you. We'll be back next week with more connection, curiosity, and intimate conversation.